the emergency, disaster preparedness and management industrial setting. So in this block have 5 units. So we will discuss one by one. So the unit 1, hazard risk mitigation and emergency response. So the categorization and fragmentation of man-made disaster, especially, is very broad, resulting in occurrence of certain sorts like flood, drought, tsunami, etc. So in this unit, so we will discuss the some hazard and also the mitigation. So especially the chemical disaster we will discuss in this unit. So we know the Pobal disaster. So in 1984 in Pobal, Madhya Pradesh in India. So the Union Carbide India Limited. So it is the pesticide industry. So the leakage of the some the toxic gas in that particular industry. So everyone know this incident. So it is one of the big incidents. So after that only the Indian government took many measures to many stringent measures in the industries. Okay. So in this incident, so the probably it is not it is a very big disaster. So the compared to natural disaster like earthquake, tsunami, landslide, so it is a very minimal. But then also the Pobal tragedy takes life of about 3787 and injured about 5 lakhs 58,125 people in this incident. Okay, so this is a big industrial disaster. Okay, so why? Because the this kind of disaster after the Poba disaster, so uh, we uh, not heard about like that Poba disaster, but in future definitely these kind of disaster will come. So therefore the mitigation, the level of emergencies is very important. So it is essential to classify the disaster on the basis of magnitude of probable severity and level of control required. So the after Poba tragedy only, the government, the Indian government take stringent laws also. So they amended the many laws, especially the environmental protection law. In the tragedy was occurred in 1984. So after 1986 only the government amended the environmental protection law. So in many laws was amended after that tragedy only. So because the level of emergencies, that is the level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3. So that is very important in chemical industrial disaster. So the level 0 means the no disaster situation. This is the level at which surveillance, preparedness and mitigation activities must be carried out. Okay, so the level 1, a district level disaster within the capabilities of the district administration to deal with. So the level 2, a state level disaster within the capabilities of the state government to deal with. So the level 3, a national level disaster requiring major direct intervention of the central government. Okay, so these are the levels. It is essential for the control of the magnitude of the severity. So therefore the these levels. So then in this unit, so these are the some objectives we are going to learn about in this unit. So especially the chemical disasters in industries. A chemical disaster crisis occurs when a hazardous chemical has been released and the release has the potential for harming and injuring population. So the chemical releases may be unintentional, as in the case of chemical industrial accident, or intentional, as in the case of terrorist attack or sabotage. So the disaster due to chemical only exists when the coping capacity of the handler of chemical becomes weaker and the mitigation strategies for hazardous chemicals are not sufficient. So the sometimes the probability of explosion on fire also arises when huge amount of hazardous chemical suddenly discharged into the environment. So the nature of chemical industrial crisis are not predictable, which makes it very hard for decision makers to develop its strategies as done for natural hazards like flood, drought, tsunami, which provides an early warning alarm. Okay, so then what are the chemical industrial emergency? So the number of ways we can measure the we can prepare the mitigations, so that the disaster explosion near plant handling or producing toxic materials, accident in storage facilities. So the ascent in a number of ways. Okay, so the emergency may ascend in a number of ways. So this slide shows the list of ways how the chemical industrial emergencies. So the accident in storage facilities, handling large and miscellaneous types of chemicals, accident during the hazardous material transportation from one site to another, inappropriate use of chemicals resulting in contamination of food stocks, inadequate waste management such as dumping of toxic chemicals. So the is an uncontrolled manner, waste management system failure. So the technological failures, plant safety design or plant components failure, natural hazards such as fire, flood, earthquake, landslide. So then some human fault also. So these are the some industrial the ascending in a number of ways to occurring some chemical industrial disaster. So although the chemical incidents may be anticipated in any chemical industry, their magnitude and consequences are not always understood or foreseeable. Okay, so the plans therefore must be made for any possible crisis to protect human lives and property. So the amount of damage by hazardous chemical released from industrial units, hazardous material transportation accident depends largely on the first responders to the crisis situation. So the chemical incidents affect community in a number of ways, including the effects of blast, the effects of industrial chemical fire, the toxic effects of hazardous chemicals. Then hazardous chemicals penetrate into the body through the skin, eyes, lungs. Because the Pobal tragedy was occurred in 1984, but till now that effects is there. Okay, so many peoples are affected by the particular toxic hazards in the particular that Pobal areas. Okay, so the places. So the types and categories of hazardous chemicals, the various scientists often categorize hazardous chemicals by the type of chemical. So uh, biotoxins. So what are the different categorization of hazardous chemicals? So then blood agents, caustics, choking, lung, pulmonary agents, incapacitating agents. So these are the some categories or types are used as for the uh, toxic chemical hazards. So then long acting anticoagulants, metals, nerve agents, organic solvent, remote control agents, toxic alcohols. So these are the some agents. So the what are the major accidental hazards units? So the zillions of chemicals are handled in chemical industry. Sorry, millions of chemicals. Some of them while handling are accountable to cause harm to human beings. Okay, so in chemical industry, definitely millions of chemicals are using, but um, most of the chemicals are to cause harmful to human beings, other living creatures, plants, microorganism, property or other even property and ecology. So such chemicals are denoted to as hazardous chemicals. So industrial installations handling these chemicals have the possibility to give rise to serious injury or damage beyond the immediate locality of the workplace. So these are the known as major accident hazards. Okay, so what are the major accident hazards? So most of the chemicals causing harmful to humans. So that is called major accidental hazard. Okay, so what are the regulatory framework and codes of practice? So that the comprehensive legal institutional framework exists in our country. So a number of regulations. So this slide shows the what are the laws and amendment laws and policies amended uh, for the chemical disaster in industry. So the Explosives Act 1984, Petroleum Act 1934, Explosive Act 1884, but before Pobal tragedy, this act is there. But the Factory Act 1980, 1948, Insecticide Act, so remaining most of the act comes was amended after Pobal tragedy only. So in your LMS also the many laws and policies are listed. So these are the some important laws for the institutional framework in the code of practices in the industries. Okay, so then the off-site and on-site disaster risk reduction strategies. So the off-site chemical industrial emergency, if the mishap accident is such that it's affect inside the industry or uncontainable and it may go outside the industry premises, it is called off-site emergency. On-site means, so if accident take place in any industry, its effects are restricted to the industrial premises involving only the employees working in the industry and the assets inside the industry, it are called on-site emergency. Okay, so the uncontainable and it may go outside, that is called off-site. So it is occurring inside the industry, that is called on-site emergency. So the emergency planning for mitigating chemical industrial disaster risk, each factory or industry unit should formulate a disaster risk reduction plan incorporating details of action to be taken in case of any major crisis occurring inside the industry. The plan should map all types of hazards. So we can prevent the industrial disaster in the industry. So definitely we should know the hazards in the particular industry. Okay, so then only we eliminate the hazards in the industry. So definitely we can prevent the accident. Okay, so that is the hazard identification is important. So the types of hazards and cover all types of major accident and categorize the risk involved in the unit. So the mock drills on the disaster management plan should be carried out periodically to make the plan infiable and persons are made fully prepared to fight against any event in the industry. So the plan will vary according to the type of industry and crisis situation. Okay, so then the plan for mitigation. So in every industry, it will vary. So the main intentions of an emergency planning are to regulate and contain the incident or accident and if possible eliminate it, to minimize the effects of the event on community, assets and environment. So these are the major intention for emergency planning. So then what are the process hazard analysis tools? So the PHA, so it's a method to systematically determine process hazards. Most process hazard analysis do not examine worst case scenarios. So the experience has shown that these catastrophic events to happen and should be studied in a PHA. So the subjectively and experience levels of PHA team members have a large impact on the effectiveness of the team. So the PHA, the process hazardous analysis, is very very important in industry. So frequently we can monitor the hazard analysis process. So then only we can prevent the hazard industrial disaster. So the workers representative on PHA teams play a crucial role due to their knowledge of process facilities. So the PHA recommendations are rejected, companies must document why they did not implement the recommendation. So the safety information contained in PHA report should be shared with all employees, contractors, and communities who could benefit from receiving this information. Okay, so the every year, every industry should do this PHA analysis. So that is very important. So then the participatory rural appraisal also is very important tool for the chemical industrial disaster management. So the participatory rural appraisal means the people, the workers, the information gathering from workers. Okay, so in exercise for communication and transfer of knowledge to mitigate the effects of chemical industrial disaster risk, regardless of whether it is carried out as a part of disease risk reduction or chemical disaster risk indexing or as part of country economic and sector work. The learning by doing and teamwork spirit of PRA requires transparent procedure. So for that reason, a series of opening meetings. Okay, so the opening meetings are very important. So then only the every workers will says what are the process, what are the hazards present in their places. So many information they can share. So that is also one of the important tool for preventing chemical industrial disaster. Okay, so then, so what are the other tools common in PRA? Diagramming. So in what machines, what are the items occurred in the industry, so that the all locations in the industry is very important. Everyone should know. So that is the diagramming, interviewing, preference ranking, mapping and modeling, mock exercise. So these are the important tool in PRA. Okay, so then so that is okay. So then we shall we move to unit 2, industrial accident injuries prevention. Okay, so the industrial accident injuries. So in this unit, so the several people are killed each year in accident at work, and over 1 million people are injured. So the over 2 million suffer illness caused by was their work. Okay, so the preventing accident and ill health caused by work is a key priority for everyone at work, and it's important for everyone to make aware and rule and regulation interrelated to environment, health, and safety at workplace. So that is very important. So then only we prevent the injuries. So in the previous unit we discussed the what are the chemical disaster, how we can identify the chemical the hazards in the industry. So in this unit we are going to learn about the how to prevent industrial injuries. Okay, so then so the work related injuries, disease and loss of national assets, then community awareness on safety, health and environment at work. So then we will learn about the improving safety, health and environment at workplace by creating green jobs. Okay, so here the environment, health and safety EHS is the department in a company or an organization tasked with ensuring that the work undertaken by the company does not cause undue environmental damage, put the workers' health and safety at high risk, complies with applicable legislation, and follows best practices. Okay, so that is EHS aims to prevent and reduce accident, emergencies, and health issues at work, along with any environmental damage that could result from work practices. So then the Environmental Health and Safety Department take a systematic and empirically informed approach to preventing accident and injuries. So now we are studying this paper. So we will become a environmental health and safety officer in industry. So these are our important objectives, important work we are going to done. Okay, so in industry, so as a environmental health and safety officers, so they are the persons or very important persons in the industries. So they oversees a range of hazards, including ergonomic hazards, exposure to carcinogens, falls from height, and heavy machineries. So these are the systematically they are informed these problems in the higher officials. So the work undertaken by EHS department is motivated by the number of concerns: the protection of workers, their health and the natural environment, compliance with legal requirements and regulatory standards, then the increase in productivity, profit, and moral that comes with a safe and healthy workforce. So these are the major work undertaken by EHS department. So in the slides, the brief of major events of industrial accident, global and national context. So the India witnessed the worst industrial disaster in the history in the year 1984, the Bhopal gas tragedy. So following the Bhopal gas disaster in 1984, the major incidents of chemical disaster in India include a fire in an oil well in Andhra Pradesh in 2003. So this is also the another important incident. So here the vapor cloud explosion in the Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited refinery, so in located in Visakhapatnam, and an explosion in the Indian Petrochemical Corporator, so the gas cracker complex. So these are the some in Maharashtra. So in 2009, so these are the some fire incident also was occurred. So the Pobal gas tragedy is noted as the worst industrial chemical disaster in the history. Besides the Minamata 1956, then Savaso 1976. So the Minamata also the mercury poisoning. Okay, so this is one of the major incident. So then Chernobyl incident. These are the some examples of chemical disaster in industries. So the Pobal tragedy occurred in India, but the Minamata in Japan. So then the Savaso, then 3 Mile Island, Chernobyl. So these are the important, the worst chemical disaster in the world. Okay. So then in this slide shows the some important chemical disaster in India. Pobal 1984, then Delhi December 1985. That is the fertilizer plant in Delhi severely affected workers and those living in the neighborhood. The oleum gas leak in the Sri Ram food and fertilizer plant. So then Rourkela, December 1985, blast furnace accident in uh, Rourkela steel plant. 18 workers affected. Then Durgapur, June 8, 1987, chlorine leak at Durgapur chemical factory created panic all around. So in Bombay, now November 1988, fire at the Bharat Petroleum Refinery at Mahul, so northeast Bombay, killed 32 people. So then Ramagunam, September 1989, major gas leak at Fertilizer Corporation so of India until Ramagundam, killed 7 persons. So these are the some in the chemical disaster in
और
uh, India. So then and also again Bombay, Gwalior, 1991, then
बस
Panipat.
यहाँ तो अब वो भी वो ना करने की अगर वाह,
So
चंदन चंदन दे गया तो भाईजान की भी शिकायत न रहने की अब।
these are the some chemical disaster occurred in India. So then, so then overview on legal aspect in environment and health and safety. The government legislation provides minimum standards of health and safety for workers at workplace. Minimum standards, however, can always be made more protective with stronger legislation. The health and safety legislation provides the legal backbone to protect workers. It is only effective when supported by government enforcement. Without adequate legal enforcement, some employers do not feel motivated to take workplace regulations seriously, particularly since many governments still do not prosecute employers who violate workplace regulations. So, the workers, industrial officials, health professionals, and government officials. So, all these are the four peoples are very responsible people in the industries for health and safety. So, without industrial officials, they can't do all the responsibilities. So every persons, all workers in industry, the industrial officials, health professionals, government officials, all are very important for the health and safety in the industry. Okay, so what are the major legislation for industrial health and safety? So here some
ऋषि मम्मा से बात
chemical
कराना, मम्मा से।
chemical risk management is that. So many amendments, many laws, rules, regulations is there. So you just go through this, your LMS, what are the legislation for chemical
हेलो,
uh, disaster.
मैं कह रहा हूँ दादी की सही से खातिर कर देना हमारी। सही है।
So apart from the above legal instrument for management hazardous waste includes biomedical waste management, batteries, rules 2016 and hazardous microorganism rules
Yeah,
like
but
that.
please off your microphone, please.
My PM wants me to be there urgent. I don't know what. No problem.
So and some industrial accident. So what is accident? So any unintended or unplanned event which has the potential to cause harm or injury is called accident. Okay, so what is industrial accident? So the unintended or unplanned event, so which has the potential to cause harm or injury. So the increasing mechanization, electrification, chemicalization, and sophistication have made industrial jobs more and more complex and intricate. So this has led to increased dangers to human life in industries through accident and injuries. In fact, the same underline the need for and importance of industrial safety. Okay, so what are the types of accident? So the accident may be different types depending upon the severity, durability, and degree of the injury. So an accident causing death or permanent or prolonged disability to the injured employee is called a major accident. A cut that does not render the employee disabled is termed as a minor accident. Okay, so the different types of accident occur in the industries. So when an employee gets injury with external signs of it, it is external injury. So injury without showing external signs such as fractured bone is called an internal one. So when an injury renders an injured employee is disabled for a short period, says a day or a week, it is a temporary accident. So on the contrary, making injured employees disabled forever is called permanent accident. The disability caused by accident may be partial or total, fatal or non-fatal. So these are the different types of accident occurred in industries. Okay, so what are the causes of accident? So the industrial safety experts have classified the various causes of accident into three broad categories. So the unsafe conditions, unsafe act, and other causes. So these are the major causes of accident. So the direct cause, it is generally classified into direct cause and indirect cause. So the direct cause, the unsafe act and unsafe conditions under the direct cause. So the other causes, some physiological and disability, psychological unsuitabilities, lack of knowledge and skills. These are the some indirect causes of accident. Okay, so what is unsafe condition? So the unsafe working condition are the biggest cause of accident. So these are associated with deductive plant, tools, equipments, machines, and materials, such as known as technical causes. Okay, so that is called unsafe conditions. Unsafe act, that means the industrial accidents occur due to certain acts on the part of workers. So these act may be the result of lack of knowledge or skill on the part of the worker, certain bodily defects and wrong attitude. So these are the some examples: operating without authority, failure to use safe attitude or personal protective equipments, careless throwing of material at the workplace, working at unsafe speed or too fast or too low, using unsafe equipment or using equipment unsafely, removing safety devices, taking unsafe position under suspended loads, distracting, teasing, abusing. So then one's own accident prone personality and behavior. So these are the some examples of unsafe act in industries. Okay, so what are the other causes? These causes arise out of unsafe situation and climatic condition and variations. So this may be include excessive noise, very high temperature. So some accident can cause, these are the reason. So excessive noise, very high temperature, humid conditions, bad working conditions, unhealthy environment, slippery floors, excessive glare, dust and fume, arrogant behavior of domineering supervisor. So these are the some causes, some accident can occur in the industries. So these are the some, again, the unsafe act, operating without authority, some examples. The unsafe conditions, here the some examples are here. So the unsafe condition means the unguarded or inadequate guarded machines. So defect conditions of machines, especially the unsafe conditions, mainly depending on the machinery. Unsafe act depending on the particular man. Okay, so because the accident will occur. Okay, so the most common cause of accident in the workplace are as follows, especially lifting, fatigue, dehydration, poor lighting, hazard materials, act of workplace violence, trips and falls, stress. So these are the some common causes of accident in the workplace. So what are the prevention measures for accident and industrial hazards? So after identification of hazards, there is need to institute preventive measures for the protection of employee and workers in the industries. It is called as control hazards. There are various methods to protect the employees. So not all controls are equally effective. There is a hierarchy of possible solution. So the most effective solution at the top of the pyramid are those that actually remove the hazard. So that is very important. So once the hazard is identified, immediately they remove the hazard. So that is one of the important preventive measures. Below are those solutions that only reduce or limit the employee's exposure. So one option is remove the hazard. So the another preventive measure is the reduce uh, 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 the exposure, uh, limit in the for employees. Okay, so the often combination of methods is needed to get the best protection. Okay, so then this is a one way of control hazards. Okay, so the control hazard is one way of preventive measures. The another important preventive measures is engineering controls. So the engineering controls include the redesign the process. For example, replace gasoline motors with electric motors to eliminate exhaust fumes, store supplies near the work. So these are this. So redesign the process is one of the engineering control. It is one of the preventive measures. So then keep the hazard away from employees. Then redesign equipment. So these are the some according it is one of the preventive measures. Then the administrative controls. So in administrative have take some can control the accident. So how the administrative the rotate employees between a hazardous task and non-hazardous task, so that the length of exposure is reduced. Okay, so then increase the number of breaks to reduce the time of exposure to hazard, like working in the hot sun. So keep work areas free of culture and debris. Require good housekeeping to reduce the chance of trips and falls. Improve personal hygiene facilities and practices. Then provide a way for employees to wash their hands. So then provide worker training programs. So these are the preventive measures can take only administrations. Okay, so then only we can prevent the industrial accident and some injuries. We can prevent the accident and injuries. So then the another the personal protective equipment also is one of the important preventive measures. So a third method for reducing hazard is due to personal protective. So the PP is worn on the body and protect employees from exposure to a hazard. So it includes respirators, gloves, eye protection, earplugs, hard cats, overalls and safety. Coveralls and safety shoes. Wear PPE when their method of hazard control are not possible or not give enough protection. So the PPE is usually considered less protective than the other method because it does not get rid of the hazard itself. It simply reduces the amount of exposure. So that is the main purpose of we can reduce the exposure. So definitely we are the PPE. So we can reduce the toxic the hazard exposure. So then workers may not want to wear it because it can be uncomfortable and hot and may make it hard to communicate. So it has to fit properly to work properly. So it has to be a right type of for the particular hazard. So then workers must be shown how to use it properly. So that is also important. Okay, so then the another hazards. So we discussed about the chemical hazards. So now we are going to discuss about the electrical hazards and hazards in construction industry. So a dangerous condition where a worker could make electrical contact with energized equipment or a conductor, so and from which the person may sustain an injury from shock. Okay, so the electrical hazards means is a shock. Okay, so there is potential for the workers to receive an arc flash burn, thermal burn or blast injury. So the construction industries are faced with numerous health and safety challenges. So this is as a result of electrical hazard inherent and construction activity. So compared to the other industries, construction industries is more hazard prone. So due to the technological development and the new equipments used in the construction with electricity, because of the improper workmanship and overconfidence of the workers. So therefore the electrical hazards will occur. So a hazard is a potential source of harm and adverse health effects on persons. So the risk is likelihood that a person may be harmed or suffered from adverse health effects. So therefore, the risk can be minimized although the hazard is there. So the two major hazards that are common in construction sites have been identified. So the industrial risk assessment. Okay, so and in the in okay, so this is what we can identify the electrical hazards also is one of the hazard creating accident and injuries. So then the another topic is industrial risk assessment. So the risk assessment is very important in industry. So it is the overall process or method, the identify hazards. So these are the, so what is risk assessment? So what are the hazards or occur in the industry? So the identification of hazards is very important. Through risk assessment only we can assess the we can identify the hazards, then analyze and evaluate the risk. Okay, so the identify hazards and risk factors that have potential to cause harm, so that is called hazard identification. Then analyze and evaluate. So the risk analysis and risk evaluation is the another process of industrial risk assessment. Then the determine appropriate way to eliminate the hazard, that means risk control. So these three processes are very important in risk assessment in industry. Okay, so the hazard identification, then risk analysis and risk evaluation, then risk control. So then what is risk assessment? Why the risk assessment is important? The risk assessment are very important as they form an integral part of an occupational health and safety management plan. So it helps to create awareness of hazard and risk, identify who may be at risk, determine whether a control program is required for a particular hazard, determine if existing control measures are adequate or if more should be done, prevent injuries or illness, especially when done at the design or planning stage, priorities hazards and control measures, meet legal requirements where applicable. So because of risk assessment, so it helps to like this. Okay, so then unit 3, the accident, injuries, response and management. So last unit we discussed the accident, industrial accident and injuries, in the how the industrial accident and injuries will occur uh, in the industries. Okay, so then in this unit we are going to discuss about again accidental injuries response and management. So here the first aid, especially we are going to discuss about the first aid treatment in the industries. So is to preserve life, prevent further injury and promote recovery. So it can be provided by anyone, anywhere, anytime, with available resources to an injured and sick person at the time of need or any emergencies, before the arrival of an ambulance, a qualified medical personnel, or before arriving at medical care facility. So therefore the first aid, this is called first aid. The first aid is very important. So in this unit you will learn about what is first aid. So what are the response of first aider. So then the concept of CPR, then indications for CPR, then various steps of CPR and um, AED emergencies. So here the what is first aid. So the first aid is to preserve life, prevent further injury, and promote recovery. So that is called first aid. Can be provided by anyone, anywhere. So the first aid provider is called first aider. Okay, so they always apply four main steps systematically during any emergency situations. The safety first, then check response, then quick assessment, so seek help and check for visible. So the safety first, make sure there is no danger to you, casualty and bystander, make the scene safe too. So then is the person asleep or unresponsive or unconscious, immediately you call, shake or shout. So if the quick assessment of breathing, so look, listen, feel. So then so if one person, so the as a first aider, so definitely they should know these four steps. Okay, so that is important. Then The choking happens when a foreign body is blocking in the airway, either particularly or completely. So choking is very common in children while eating, drinking, playing with toys. Adult also get affected while eating. So this is also occurs during road accident. So the choking also is one of the uh, uh, important incident occur in the industry. So the diversion of food, unintentional swallowing of small object, so these are the causes of choking. So then drowning also is one of the important the incident occur in industry. So the when water, weeds and mud get into or block the windpipe. So that is the drowning means the block the wind pipe, so the airway, lungs, leading to difficulty in breathing, so that is called a drowning. So this mostly happens during swimming or while shaving a drowning victims. Children are affected due to ignorance while practicing swimming. Drowning is common in disaster like flood, so make sure you are safe. So should or call for help. So these are the first aider should know these everything. Okay, so they try to throw a rope or something to a person which he can hold on it, remove the victim out of water. So do not attempt to force the water to come out the stomach as victim may inhale. So check for response, airway patency and breathing. So if the person has no breathing, so and it's unconscious immediately, so start chest compressions. So you saw the some first aid in the if one people affecting in the drowning. Okay, so then the another one is the cardiopulmonary risk, that means the CPR. Okay, so this is resuscitations. So the CPR also is very important in industry. So the first aider should know that means the cardiac arrest. So the one person will affect the cardiac arrest, how what are the first aid will given. So that's why that is important. So it's an emergency procedure that combines just chest compression. Chest compression often with artificial ventilation in an effort to manually preserve intact brain function until further measures are taken to restore spontaneous blood circulation and breathing in a person who is in cardiac arrest. So that is the CPR. So then what are the steps in CPR? So one person affected in CPR, one person the cardiac arrest. So what are the steps how to give first aid? Okay, so the before starting CPR, so is the environment safe for the person? Because the environmental condition is very important for cardiac arrest. Okay, then is the person conscious or unconscious? If the person appears unconscious, tap or shake his or her shoulder and ask loudly, are you okay? So that is very important. So if the person does not respond and two people are available, one should call local emergency number and one should begin CPR. So if you are alone and have immediate access to telephone, call local emergency number before beginning CPR unless you think the person has become unresponsive because of suffocation. So in this special case, begin CPR for 1 minute and then call the local emergency number. So in industrial people, so everyone should know these are the first aid informations. Okay, so that is very important. So then unit 4, trauma care and burn response. So the burn, so the first aid also is important in industry. First aid and what are the information should know the first aider. So in this unit, so the burn is also is one of the distressing condition for patients. So the burn injuries cause physical and psychological impact on patient. So the burn problem affect all ages ranging from infant to old age people, and is a problem both in developing and developed countries. Burns are also common consequence of disaster and accident. So the burn have an immediate as well as long term impact on the victim. So there is need for a multidisciplinary approach while dealing with your burn patient. So the burn treatment is not straightforward because there are different guidelines at the national and international level. So the burn cases are associated with high morbidity and mortality in the first 24 hours. So the rate of mortality due to burn injuries is very high in developing world as compared to the developed world. So in this unit you will learn about the potential areas where burn disaster could occur. Then what are the steps of first aid during burns? So before unit we discussed what are the first aid in choking, drowning and CPR. So in this unit, so we are going to discuss about the first aid for burn injuries. So then, how enumerate the indications for transfer of burn case to hospital? So then, long-term measures in case of burn disaster. So burn also is one of the important disaster in industries. So in not only industry, in occupation. Okay. So the burn as an occupational hazard in the industry. So the industrial accident or a common cause of burn of various types. It might be due to flame, due to fire or release of high pressure steam. So it can be due to electrical failure leading to short circuit and fire, or due to spillage, inhalation of a chemical that is corrosive in nature. So deal to which such accident and reduce its impact. Proper management of burn by its identification and first aid as well as referral care is the key. Okay, so what are the types of burns on the basis of cause and severity? So the classification on the basis of causes. So based on the cause of burn, they can classify it into thermal burns, electrical burns, chemical burns, and radiant energy burns. So thermal burns are caused by heat. Electrical burns, square measure caused by associate electrical current passing through the body. Chemical burns is caused by liquid or dry chemicals like ammonia, sodium hydroxide, quicklime, or white phosphorus. Radiant energy that burns will be caused by lasers, electrical attachments, arcs, ultraviolet radiation, and microwaves. So, in such cases, the first danger is to the eyes. Okay, so the through the burn injuries, the main important danger is it 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 will affect the eyes. Okay, so the classification of the basis of severity. So the first, we can classify the basis of causes. So the another classification of burn injuries, so based on the severity, first degree burns, second degree burns, the burn space, so that is the first and second. So the first degree burns, the skin is red and painful, short of a sunburn. However, blisters are not gift. The second degree burns means the skin is red and painful, blisters area unfit and area unit gift. The third degree burns, the skin layers area unit destroyed and underlying fat, muscles and burn can also to be broken. So the burn space might not be painful as a result of the nerves that are destroyed. However, the encompassing second degree burn areas could also be painful. The second and first degree burn areas may be painful அப்படின்னு சொல்லி நம்ம இங்க பார்க்கிறோம். So the this is the classification based on the severity. So the burn injuries classified into first degree, second degree and third degree burns. So how we can assess the burn area? So the extent of an burn is normally expressed as the percentage of the body area that is concerned in a damage. So in vast burns, the entire area affected person. so which include the lower back should be examined. They take into account that burns patient, in particular children, can also get a cold quick, so patient must be warmed as necessary. So then some assessment method, the quick assessment method is there. So the Wallace rules of nines, so in based on this method, so the arm, the 9 percentage burns in the arm, 9 percentage burn in the head, 1 percentage in neck, 18 percentage in leg, then 18 percentage in posterior trunk, then anterior trunk. So these are the some the quick the method is quick to apply and can use to estimate the location of medium. So based on the location of the massive burns is adult, so it is rules for these for that we can how measure the area of how much area affected by burn in the human body. Okay, so then the assessment of burn type and depth, classification of depth of burns, then epitomis. Then this assessment is based on the burn type and depth of burn. So the first, what are the first aid for burns? The goals of first aid should be to stop the burning procedure. So these are the first some preventive measures. So the prevent to the burning manner, so the flame must be doused with water or smothered with a blanket or by rolling the sufferer at the ground. Then rescuers should take care to avoid burn damage to themselves. Apparel can preserve heat even it's a scaled burn and should be eliminated as soon as feasible. Adherent material which include nylon, garp must be left on. So the tar burns needed to cooled with water, but the tar itself should not longer be removed. So the case of electrical bands, the victim needs to be disconnected from the supply of strength before first resource is attempted. So these are the some preventing the burning manner. So then cooling the burn, how to cooling the burn. So this also gets rid of noxious chemicals and reduces pain and can lessen edema by using stabilizing mast cells and histamine release. So the ice water, so how, so one people one man will affect the burn now. So how we can prevent the cooling, how we can uh, that person that the affected area, the uh, that how cooling the burn, so that is, so the ice water is should not be used as a severe vasoconstriction, but the cooling big regions of skin can result in a hypothermia. So especially in kids, chemical burns ought to be irrigated with copious quantities of water. So then analgesia, so then masking the burn. So these are the some burn by fire. So then, so these are the some first aid for burn injuries. Okay, so the first aid depending upon the causes of burn. So the burns from the electrical current, so what are the first aid will given in this light source. So then burn from chemicals, so what are the first aid. So then burn prevention and fire safety. So the about 9% of burn injuries are preventable. Sorry, 90% of the burn injuries are preventable. This has been brought up about through many attempts to decrease their occurrence. These attempts fall into two essential categories. So education is an active process that requires a change in an individual behavior. So the education also is one of the important, education and legislation. This is one of the important preventive measures for burn injuries. So then, okay, so then we go to the unit 5. business continuity planning for employee health in case of natural, industrial, or health disaster. So here you will learn about the importance of occupational health of employees, then impact of chemical disaster on environment, so then climate change due to natural man-made disaster. So like that we are going to learn about this unit. So here one of the important concept is called business continuity planning, BCP. So what are the role of environment and occupational health of employees in business continuity? So the BCP continue that means is the act of visualizing event that will affect precarious functions and process for the organization or association, ensuring that the organization respond to any event in a planned and rehearsed method. So the PCB is one of the important component in the industries, because the business continuity is one of the 9 components of risk reduction or loss control program. So BCP is one of the risk reduction or loss control program, because that is very important in industry. So what are the risk reduction components? So injury deterrence, damage controller, fire inhibition, security and safety, occupational health and hygiene, environmental pollution control, product obligation, public responsibility, business continuity. So these are the components are very important. So what are the key steps in business continuity planning? So they recognize crucial business operations and services. So the first step is to recognize the essential business operations and services necessary to protect the research materials, data equipment, records, and critical supplies that may be verged by distraction. So the queries in research facilities, what are our important assert and functions? Who are the important person and vendors? So these are the industry, the administrators, the owners of industry. So they are following these asking these questions. Okay, so what are the vital resources required for this function? What are the consequences of this vital function is not assumed quickly following the disaster? So these are the some logistic and manpower positioning. So that is also some logistic also is important. So the human capital resiliency can be defined as an organization ability to respond and adapt. So this here the administration, the particular if the injuries is occur, the accident is occur, how the industry manage the all economical problems, and how manage the losses in the industry. So that way, so they that is also that assessment also important. So then the logistic and manpower also is that organization that ability to respond and adapt rapidly to threats posed of its staff. Industry that can build resiliency into their human capital are more likely to protect their most valuable resources and maintain continuous operations in the event of a crisis. Many forward thinking organizations are already considering the impact of short terminate eruptions in normal business activities and identifying appropriate actions to sustain vital business process in the event of any emergency. So they are also looking at long term trends such as changes in staff demographics and customer buying patterns. So while not anticipated to have immediate consequences, these trends could affect human capital resilience and other aspect of human capital management in the future. So then the risk insurance. So the duties, the risk management, the duties and responsibilities. All industries have a moral and in general a statutory requirement to protect community and the environment from the effects of their activities and external hazards. Then chemical industry rightly spend much time in identifying hazards and taking steps to reduce risk. The risk management in industry is very important. Okay, so to an acceptable level, the protection facility must be provided for routine and non-routine operations and plant emergencies. Then accident, man-made and natural disasters still occur sometime with devastating results. Okay, so then the business continuity plan and disaster management. So the BCP guides the activities of the business unit or organization in the immediate period. So some control centers. Okay, so the plan should include but is not limited to the following functions. So response and recovery strategy, communication plan, relevant contact details for internal and external parties, relocation strategies, resource requirements, so ability to assess level of impact. So these are the some key factors, the basic steps undertaken by the key personnel. So then this is what the block 2 completed. So now the time is 4:53. So some more time is there. So we will start. Shall we start block 3?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, we can proceed.
Yeah. Okay. So the block 3 is occupational safety and management. So in this block have 6 units. So now we are going to discuss about unit 1, duties and responsibility of individuals and employee participation in safety. So here in this unit you will be able to the labor or industrial relationship, the framework of the labor and industrial relationship. So then the legal provisions on the issues related to workers participation, then duties and responsibilities of employee. So then like that you will be able to understand in this unit. So here the labor or industrial relations. So in this section to learn and consider over the nature of employment in India. So the labor in India in 2012 there were around 487 million workers in India, the second largest. But it is India is the second largest after China for workers in India. The 487 million workers in India. Okay, so it is the second largest after China. So over 94% work in unincorporated, unorganized enterprises ranging from push, pushcart vendors to home-based diamond and gem polishing operations. So the organized sector includes workers employed by the government, state government, state-owned enterprises and private sector enterprises. In 2008, the organized sector employed 27.5 million workers, of which 17.3 million worked for government and government-owned entities. So this workforce in formal economy has seen the advent of unionism post independence and had the history of large number of industrial disputes. So in India, the labor in India is the second largest after China. So many people are working in India. So the history of development of concept workers, the participation in management in India, the foremost evidence is recommendation of the Royal Commission on Labor, so on workers committee, which can play a useful role in the Indian industrial system. So these recommendation translated into law as Industrial Disputes Act 1947 required employees employing 100 or more workers in any industrial establishment to constitute work committees. So that is, so then what are the legislative provisions? So, the amendment of the Constitution in 1975 during the emergency, the Constitution was amended by the introduction of Article 43A. So, the Article 43A is one of the amendment in for the purpose of this amendment was to raise productivity, promote industrial peace, and create a sense of involvement amongst the workers. So this is the purpose of Article 43A. So the inserted article that formed part of the directive principles of state policy part 4 provided that the state shall take steps by suitable legislation or in any other way to secure participation of workers in the management of undertakings, establishment, or other organization. So these are the some amendment of the constitution for the workers, the industrial, uh, the working people in India. So what are the purpose of workers participation? The concept of workers participation in management is a broad and complex one. So the scope and content of workers participation in management is variable and dependent on many considerations including political, economic, psychological, and social. So the political democracy and industrial democracy have to go hand in hand. So as you all are aware, for survival and growth, an organization needs to continuously endeavor to cut, cut down cost, improves productivity and quality by updating technology and improving work methods. So for that reason only, the workers participation is very one of the main purpose of the industries. So the what are the characteristics of workers participation? So it increase the scope of employees. So then the participation has to be at different levels of organization hierarchy. So it presuppose building acceptance of responsibilities by workers. Then participative forms and practices provided for association of workers. So then it is aimed to transfer management function to the workers. So that is one of the important characters in the workers' participation in the administration. So then what are the elements and forms of participation? So the term participation has different meaning for different purpose in different situations. So firstly it means mental and emotional involvement rather than mere physical activity. Secondly, participation must motive a person to contribute to a specific situation, to invest his own resource such as initiative, knowledge, creativity, then ingenuity in the objectives of the organization. And thirdly, it encourages people to share responsibility for a decision or activity. So the sharing responsibility commits people to ensure the success of the decision or activity. So what are the levels of participation? So the workers participation is possible at all levels of management, that only difference in that degree and nature of part application. So the for instance, it may be vigorous at lower level and faint at top level. So the broadly speaking, there is a following 5 levels of participation. So the first one is the information participation. So it ensures that employees are able to receive information and express their views pertaining to the matters of general economic importance. So the another important level, the consultative participation. Here workers are consulted on the matters of employees' welfare, such as work, safety, and health. Okay, so however, the final decision always rests at the option of management, and employees' views are only for advisory nature. So then third level, associate participation. So it is extension of consultative participation, as management here is under moral obligation to accept and implement the anonymous decision of employees. So then the fourth level, administrative participation, it ensures greater share of works in discharge of managerial functions. So here the decision already taken by the management come to employees, preferably with the alternative for administrative participation. So these are different levels of the workers' participation. So then, what are the prerequisite for effective participation? So the prerequisite for the success of any scheme of participative management or the following. So firstly, there should be a strong democratic and representative unionism for the success of participative management. Secondly, there should be mutually agreed and clearly formulated objectives for participation to succeed. Thirdly, there should be a feeling of participation at all levels. So then fourthly, there should be effective consultation of the workers by the management. So these are the prerequisite for effective participation. So then, even fifthly, the both management and the workers must have full faith. So then, till the participative structure is fully accepted, then the education and training make a significant contribution to the purposeful working of participation. Finally, the forums of participation, areas of participation, and guidelines for implementation of decision should be specific, and there should be prompt follow-up action and feedback. So then, what are the methods to enhance employee participation? So the employee participation is fundamental to the success of corporate health and safety programs. So here the employee involvement in health and safety programs won't happen unless we have involvement by supervisors and senior management. So the giving workers easy access to health and safety instruction, the method that supervisor can use to get employees involved in health and safety program. So what are the role of trade unions? So the Trade Unions Act 1926 provided the protection for a non-cent Indian labor union movement. So the number of unions grew considerably. So here in India had about 59,000 trade unions registered with the government of India. So of these only 9,900 unions filled income and expenditure reports and claimed to represent 7.4 million workers. So this is the union trade union act in industry is one of the important. So the state of Kerala at 9,800 trade unions had the highest number of registered unions. So Kerala is one of the highest number of registered trade unions. The state of Karnataka had the fastest growth in number of unions between the 1950s to 1990s. So this is what we discussed in the unit 1. So then unit 2, the prevention and management of occupational hazards and diseases. So in this unit, so you will be able to the most common occupational diseases, then common pathways for the causation of the disease, so then the disabilities due to occupational disease and hierarchy of control. Okay, so what are the hazard identification and assessment techniques? A hazard is something, what is hazard? The hazards is something that can cause an injury or an illness, whether physical or mental. It is called hazard. So the exposure to dust is a hazard. So what are the hierarchy of controls? The paramount to protecting the health of workers is controlling the risk factors so that they are exposed to in the workplace. Here this is the hierarchy of controls. Okay, so the first, elimination of hazards, it is one of the this is a first priority. Okay, so then substitution, then engineering controls, then administrative controls. The final one is The least effective PPE. PPE is the least effective. So the most effective is elimination of the hazard. So they physically remove the hazard. That is very important. Then substitution means replace the hazard. Engineering control, so they isolate people from the hazard. So administrative control change the way people work. So the PPE is a personal protective equipment. It is the least effective hierarchy of controls in the hazards, in the accident. Okay, so here the medical interventions. So the to understand how to prevent disease and the consequences of diseases in general, so it is important to understand the concept of prevention. So here already we discussed some diseases. So here the recognize the disease referral for management, identifying and limiting disabilities. So in this units we can understood the hierarchy of risk assessment controls. Okay, so that is then the unit 3, the occupational and safety in other occupations. So the occupational safety in other occupations. So here already we discussed in first aid and CPR everything. So again these topics again came here. So the same already we discussed in block 2. So what is first aid, what are the role of first aider, so then everything. So already we discussed in this topic. So what are the steps of CPR. So then, so that is what the another, the unit 4, occupational health for women and children. So this is also is one of the important topic. So in the earlier units we have focused mainly on the occupational health of workers, that mostly constitute, one may say, the general population of workers. So here we are going to discuss about especially the women and children. Okay, so the hazard and risk among vulnerable groups, because the women and children are vulnerable groups. So we have categorized the groups as women, children, migrant, contract and elderly. So these groups have a variety of overlaps. For example, many migrant workers are contract workers. So also many workers are not only vulnerable because of single characteristic, but also because this characteristic make them more likely to also belong to other categories. So the young workers are more likely than their older counterparts. Okay, so here, so the legal protection of vulnerable population, especially the women and children. So the government of India has enacted laws and other measures to safeguard the interest of the workers belonging to the vulnerable groups. So here some of the important protective provisions for safeguarding the interest of working women. So here the safety, the section 22(2) of the Factories Act 1948 provides that no women shall be allowed to clean, lubricate or adjust any part of a prime mover or of any transmission machinery while the prime mover or machinery is in motion, or to clean, lubricate and adjust any part of any machine if the cleaning, lubrication and adjustment therefore. So the women cannot move any machinery, the motion cannot clean. So this is one of the act for women workers. So then the section 27 of the Factories Act 1948 prohibits employment of women in any part of factory for pressing cotton in which a cotton opener is at work. So then some prohibition of night work. So the section 66 1B of the Factories Act state that no women shall be required or allowed to work in any factory except between the hours 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. So then section 25, that act, the cigar workers, so act 1966 stipulate that no women shall be required or allowed to work in any industrial premises except between 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. Then Section 46 of the Mines Act 1952 prohibits employment of women in any mine above ground except between the hours 6 to 7. So the night work is prohibited for women workers. So then the maternity benefit. The Maternity Benefit Act 1961 regulates the employment of women in certain establishment for certain periods before and after childbirth. So it provides maternity benefits. The Building and Other Construction Act 1996 provides for maternity benefit to female beneficiaries of the welfare fund. Welfare fund. So some provisions for separate latrines and urinals. So that the provision for separate latrines and urinals for female worker exists under the following Rule 53 Contract Labor Regulation Act 1970. So many act for provision for separate latrine and urinals. So these are the some benefits for women and children, that is the especially for women. So the mm, that group of workers. Okay, so then the unit 5 is called ergonomics. So um, so here I think this topic is very too it is also very important topic. I think shall I finish?
Yes,
So
ma'am.
class we will continue this unit 5 in block 3 and
Okay, ma'am.
so in this block unit 5 and unit 6 is there, so then the block 4 and 5 are also there. So in next class we will continue because the ergonomy also is one of the important topic, so we will discuss it in later. Okay, so
Okay,
shall I
ma'am.
start this presentation now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So we will discuss remaining topics in next class.
Okay, ma'am. Hello.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So if you
Hello.
have any doubt,